Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Edge. My name is Kas Moncheck, and I am here to discuss school safety. School safety has become more of a concern in recent years, and we must look into how to keep our schools safe. Officer Jim Stevick is here to discuss this urgent matter with me. Officer Stevick, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
So, just to get into it, obviously school safety is a pretty heavy topic. A lot of concern there in recent years. So first, how did you become an officer? Like, what spurred you into that career path?
Well, originally I wanted to be a state game warden because I love my outdoors. I like to be out, like to hunt. Unfortunately, a game warden asked me, well, do you like to hunt? No, I love to hunt. He said, then you're going to hate our job because you're going to be working when you should be hunting. Therefore, that career path was never happening. So I figured the next best thing would be to be a policeman.
And when you became a game warden, what did you see a lot of similarities between what they do and what police officers do?
It was law enforcement, but it was in the outdoors.
Huh. While dealing with some high school kids, it's almost like you're dealing with the outdoors. How did you get assigned to Peters Township and then the high school?
My chief at the time addressed, he felt that I'd be a good fit for the high school. Originally, I was totally honest, I was not interested in being put into a shoebox after having a 20 square mile office, if you can. But after being here for a little while, I learned to love it and couldn't imagine even doing anything else.
So as school resource safety officer, that's your title?
Mm-hmm.
What are your obligations and duties?
Well, number one, to keep you guys safe, right? If something bad were to happen, I'm here on grounds. So that cuts our response time down. But it is to build a rapport with the students, and I like to intervene before they get themselves in trouble.
Yeah, so you said keep us safe. Obviously the schools, we have a very big school, big student body. If someone were to come into our school as an intruder and you're on one side of the school and they're on the other, how would you go about conducting probably over 1,000 people into doing what you want them to do and get them so you can minimize the damage and the intruder?
So you have all been trained in the ALICE program, so you're all going to be an integral part on how we overcome active intruder. But I will depend on my administration and information to get me to them as soon as possible.
Speaking of the ALICE program, when you were growing up going to school, did you have anything like the ALICE program?
We did not. We had weather drills. We actually didn't until the 80s, and I was in school in the early 80s, but in the later 80s, this is when basically they were having a lot of drive-by shootings in California. That's when these type of active aggressor or shooter drills came into play.
As you look into like different ways we can keep our schools safe, obviously there's been some people that brought up, I know some schools that have metal detectors, they have wands at the front door. Should we look into that? Why should we have that, or why should we not have that?
I think it's more or less it's a false. So if somebody wants to get something in, there are plenty of ways to get it in. It's very timely, it's expensive. I just don't think we have the amount of issues that a lot of school districts have. And there are other ways to make sure that we stop people from bringing things that they shouldn't be bringing.
Yeah, so obviously students or intruders, they could hide stuff in the school or in their cars that are parked on campus. So why can't we use dogs or other officers to search the school once, maybe daily or weekly, to survey the school, make sure there's nothing being hidden?
Once again, we'd have to have some type of reasonable suspicion. If it's weapons, dogs aren't really going to help us unless it's a bomb. We would need some type of threat. And every time that we do have a threat or we have an event, we've had many events where we actually do bring the city of Pittsburgh brings their dogs, the state police bring their dogs, and they'll do cursory searches to make sure there's
What type of events would those be that this city police brings their dogs?
We had them last year for commencements. We actually had them do a sweep, and they loved to work their dogs, so it was no big deal for them to come out and do it. And once again, there was no threat, it was just precautionary. We're learning that we want to be proactive in these things rather than reactive.
Yeah, so the training that students receive do the officers also know that training, and are they aware of what we're trained to do so they can act on that? And if they see us doing it, they know that we're doing what we've been taught?
Absolutely. So we actually do more training with our guys. So we're doing a lot more on the outside looking in than you guys actually get. They know what you're going to be. They know we're going to have students possibly running from a scene. They are well trained in Alice.
So I say students running from the scene. How would you round them up? Obviously, students running everywhere, maybe off the campus. How would you find them and get them back to where they belong?
Right. So what we depend on here at the high school, we have semi-adults to adults, right, 14 to 18 years of age. I don't know many that do not have cell phones. I know that they are automatically, once they get out of here, I don't care where they go as long as they get home safe, right? My guys are not going to be as concerned on the inner perimeter. They're going to be looking for them on the outside. They're going to be contacting their parents by phone, and we will eventually find them. We'll account for everybody.
So if something bad were to happen to school, how would parents be notified or guardians?
Shelly Belcher is our information person. Every mom and dad knows Shelly Belcher. She will be automatic. That'll be her job, to disseminate information and to gain information.
Now, is Shelly Belcher just in charge of the school safety? Is that her only job, or is there someone that's in charge of
that?
Just
Is
school
part.
safety?
She is the information. I'm not sure her exact title, but she is an information person.
So as we go back to school safety and keeping our schools safe, I look at some of the schools. There's a lot of glass on the front of the school, classrooms, and some things like that. Could we possibly substitute glass with something else, or another? Or I see a lot of the glass has the wire netting, netting on the inside. Could we put that in? Does that help?
So, of course, if I designed a school, it would look like a castle with a moat and alligators in it, right? But we can't do that. We need to get natural light into the building. Most of the glass today has a film on it that is literally bullet resistant. So it takes, not saying you couldn't penetrate it, but it takes a good long while to penetrate that glass.
So if we at the high school had a lockdown for an intruder, what are the other schools doing? How are they notified? Are they going to be staying on high alert?
Yeah, the same thing. They're going to be, all of our schools in the district will be put on lockdown.
Okay, so obviously different schools are spread out. Middle school and the McMurray, Raycross, those are the closest schools, and then us in Pleasant Valley at the top of the hill there. Does every school have a resource officer? Does every school have an Officer Stevick, or how are those schools staying safe?
Right, so we only have 2 school resource officers at this time. Eventually, we would love to see a school resource officer in every school, but with the proximity of Pleasant Valley, I would handle Pleasant Valley if something occurred there. Officer Emery, soon to be Officer Johnston, would be handling McMurray Elementary, and then we would look at our guys on the outside, our road guys, to respond to Bower Hill.
Okay, so so you come to the scene, let's say, whatever officer, how would a student identify themselves as not the threat so they are not assumed a threat?
Like you're trained, put your hands in the air and do what the nice officer tells you to do. So
for students that are stuck in the hallway or something like that, and what would you like? You say go into the bathroom, or obviously because we're taught to not even open up the doors, not even look in the hallway for students, just shut the door. If I'm in the hallway, locked down, where do you think I should go?
That is going to be up to you to make those decisions. I would tell you, do not stay idle. Do not stay in one place. If you hear noises from one area or somebody tells you where the threat is, head the other way and try and get out.
How would you judge when to get out, when to hide, when to stay and fight? What would be on your judgment on that?
That would be totally on information. My judgment as your school resource officer, I'm limited. I am what they call direct to threat. I don't hide in an office. I don't sit and wait it out. I am going directly to that person. That's why we teach you Alice. Alice is,
alert.
Absolutely, but once you secure and lock down, you have a little bit of time to make that decision, and then you listen for the information to come.
If I'm barricaded in a room, do you think it'd be smart for me to unbarricade and run out if that opportunity was presented?
Once you make that determination, once again, wait for the information to come.
Speaking of school safety and protecting ourselves, I know some schools have started to arm students and teachers. Do you think that would be an option for us to have us armed? I read online rocks and sticks were given out. I know it might sound kind of silly, but do you think that would be an option for us too?
No, there are plenty of things that can be used as weapons. If you watch our Alice presentation from the students, you'll see them holding staplers, you'll see them holding scissors, you'll see them, anything can be used to defend yourself, a chair, a table, a lamp.
One of the big things I've noticed from the school where we are when there's lockdown is if I'm in the cafeteria, it's a large part of the student body for 3 periods of the day. What do you do if you're in there and an intruder comes in? You're sitting there, not much protection, a lot of glass?
That depends on what your information is. In most of these shootings, I believe it just dipped below 98%. 90% of all school shootings include only one person, right? So if you've only got one person and they're in the building, is there a door from the cafeteria to the outside?
I believe there's 2 to get out into the hallways, and then I'm not sure about the back. I know last year, I know there's one door. We did an Alice drill, and I was in Miss Frick's class, and she failed to read the email, and it was the winter, snowing outside, and my whole class evacuated, and we were locked outside. So then we were let back in through the door back in the cafeteria.
Right. So that's where you're here every day. It's like going into a movie theater. You should be looking for where the exits are. Mm-hmm. When you walk into the cafeteria, look for the exits. Are there big windows in the front of that cafeteria?
Yeah, right at the front there.
And if you know that the bad guy is back by room 226, it's pretty far distance, right?
Yeah.
I'd be looking for ways out.
All right. When you're surveying a scene, you come up, there's an intruder in the building, what are your first steps to make to minimize the shooter?
Not understanding the question.
So what is Officer Steve going to do when you hear over the loudspeaker there's an intruder in the building? What's your first response? I'm
going to be directing anybody in my way to get out of the way and get to a secure location or get out, depending on where the bad guy is. But I'm going to be heading direct to threat. So if they tell me he is in front of room 123, Officer Stevick is going to be running to room 123.
All right, we're going to take a little short break here, and we will return shortly with Officer Stevick on The Edge. Hello, welcome back to The Edge. We just took a little break. I'm here with Officer Stevick to discuss school safety. It's obviously a big issue, so we're just going to get right back into it. Officer Stevick, again, thank you for joining me. We talk about school intruder. Well, I can't be an intruder if not in the building. So how do we monitor who comes in and out of the school? I know there's a lot of different exits, but they come through the front door. And how do we monitor who's coming in, who's coming out?
So this is why I get a little heated when I find prop doors within the school during the school day, right? We want everybody to come to the front door. Nobody should be entering this building with the exception to maybe one area. But everybody should be coming up to the front, buzzing the little buzzer, speaking to the attendance secretaries. If it's somebody who's coming to pick up their child and they don't need to be in the building, we direct them back to their car. If it's somebody that has to come in and drop something off, we now no longer have people bringing and leaving things on the table, if you remember last year.
I do remember that.
Right, so we've stopped that. Now they have to come up. The parent has to sit and wait. Do you think those parents are happy they have to sit and wait?
No, sir.
Right, so that's going to teach them 2 things, right? And don't forget your things, and next time your parents probably not going to bring it.
I remember right? I've been a victim of the table of shame 1 or 2 times. Homework has been sitting there for me.
Right. But if we do have to have people, and this is unfortunately or you could say fortunately, back when these buildings were built, we didn't have this threat problem. So there was no problem in parents walking through the halls or people coming for business to walk through the halls, and all the administrative offices were in the center. That you'll not see that anymore in most schools, especially our new schools. All of our offices will be up front, right? So if you're going to enter those, we still need you to go through the Raptor system, right? And that's going to give us any alerts if there's anything wrong with you. So if you have a criminal history, you're on a Megan's Law website, that's going to indicate to us.
So when they come into school, I walk around. Obviously, I see a lot of the different people standing at the front. Some have bags, purses, and whatnot. Why don't we have an officer, you, go down, check their bags, check them down, see if they're up to no good or not?
Right, because I would be there the whole day. I would just sit there. I would never be in the buildings. I would just sit there because it is nonstop people coming in that front door. So more or less it's trust, and we depend on our staff to identify anybody who may become agitated, maybe be nervous, right? So those are it.
So the staff trained teachers and other people in the school, are they trained to pick up on cues that someone might be agitated or annoyed or rushed?
That's common sense, right? So if you get somebody who come in there and they're upset, we all know when our parents are upset, right? We all know when our brothers or sisters are upset.
Yes, sir.
Right? So as far as training goes, they're all trained in Alice, which covers a lot of that.
Yeah, bringing in the bags brings up another point. Sometimes students could possibly be the intruder, and why don't we have clear backpacks too, we could see what they have in their backpack?
It has always been a topic of discussion, but never come to fruition, and quite frankly, we really haven't needed it.
And we could even maybe minimize that further and say, could we just not even have backpacks? Could we carry the backpacks into the school, leave them in the locker, and carry our books around? Would that be another option?
That would be something that you would definitely want to talk to the school about.
Yes, I know that we talked about it in the past, and a lot of the concern was it might be hard to get from your locker to your book bags and stuff. Another thing, people could possibly keep stuff in their locker. How can we monitor what are they bringing in, what are they taking out? How can we monitor that?
Where there's a will, there's a way. You can stop bringing book bags in as long as you're clothed. You're going to be able to get a weapon in here if you need to get a weapon. You're going to be able to get contraband in if you want to get contraband in.
So obviously inside you're pretty safe. Excuse me, in the school. But what from outside? I know I've gone outside for gym class, and for media classes we're allowed to go outside. If someone were to come to the school, we're all outside for maybe like a pep rally or something like that. What are the protocol for that?
It's going to be the same that you're trained in Alice. Get to a safe place, right? This isn't just for in your house. It's going to be outside. You're going to have to, and it's called situational awareness. If you think something can happen, start thinking about what you would do, right? Where would you exit? What would you hide behind? What would you hide in? But we can't cover all bases. If so, it would resemble a prison, and you guys would not want to be here.
Circling back around to, you said earlier about how we can, you said you get very annoyed when prop doors are open during school hours, but what about when they're not open? If an intruder were to notice frequently that doors are propped open after school hours, could they come in and leave something for them to come back later the next day and use in a school?
Absolutely.
Is there a way we can prevent that, minimize that?
Secure the building. Secure it 24/7.
I notice a lot that the schools are just left open. I know on the weekends I've come in to get homework and stuff. Could we lock the school down over the weekend when no one's here?
Well, the problem is we have a lot of events that occur on the weekends, just like the evenings, right? So you have wrestling, you have swimming, you have all type of events. You have practices that go on, so you would have to man somebody here 24/7 to make sure that nobody came in the building.
That'd be very hard to do.
It would.
So if an intruder was to enter the building, who would be the contact person that would be like, yes, there's an intruder in the building, and initiate Alice?
The first person he runs into, right? So if it happens to be you, Kaz, you would be the one to start giving information. And that would be, if it was while you were getting away, you were to say it, and there were other people around, right? Locked on, there's a guy with a gun screaming it, locked down, just as Alice.
Okay. Other things, could I maybe pull a fire alarm, start?
So there's once again, the fire alarm ordeal that's one of the things that occurs. The bad guys actually do that. So I would say that would be probably not the best thing to do, because we'd have a lot of people that would run out into the halls. With that, we're teaching our people to maybe just take a second, because usually, what do we do in a drill? We notify you beforehand, right?
Yes.
But especially after something occurs, we want to make sure that we minimize trauma to you guys mentally, so we'll give you that heads up. But to peer out with not being notified, keep your ears open for gunshots or screaming, right? And then wait for information.
So if a fire alarm was to be pulled, now you bring up that maybe the bad guy will pull a fire alarm. If a fire alarm was to be pulled, would you recommend us running out of the school? Obviously, because that's what we're trained to do. We're supposed to evacuate in case of a fire. Or do we wait a couple seconds and see what would happen? Who would notify us? Okay, yes, this is a fire. No.
Personally, I would tell you that the couple seconds that it takes just to be observant, to make sure you're not running into danger, and once again, if it ends up being a dangerous person within the school administration is probably going to know pretty quick, and they're going to be, anybody else, the teachers are aware of the PA system, they can get on and they can basically give that information.
So if I'm outside of school and I'm notified that someone is up to no good, who would I contact? What would the steps be to ensure that we're kept safe? Who would I go to?
911. Anytime it could be an emergency. If you get information that somebody's going to come do something bad, you contact 911 immediately.
Yes, sir. Now, we look at the younger schools. Are they also taught Alice all the way down to kindergarten?
They are.
And obviously, the younger kids are not as you get up, you get more older, more mature. How will we redirect the younger kids to listen in a time of crisis? Maybe not as good as the older kids, and you have like little 7-year-olds running around at Bower Hill. How would an officer corral that?
Once again, if it's in the school, we have examples where our younger students do much better in these situations than our older students actually do. But once they're out of the building, as a first responder, honestly, they are the last thing on my mind. Mine is basically neutralizing the threat. I will have so many first responders on scene within literally minutes that we will be able to find our kids.
If I am, and so you look at Alice, alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. Counter was always one that stood out to a lot of students. We counter him. We take, I should not say him, we counter the intruder. We take whatever weapon they have. And now if you're coming into the building and you see me or a group of students near this weapon, now you might think we're the intruder. What do we do with the weapon to say, no, we are not the intruder, this was the intruder?
Right. Well, we always show, we want it out of sight. We actually don't. But if it's not in your hands, you're giving me time to think, right? If it's in your hands, you're asking me to take a split-second decision whether you're the good guy or the bad guy. So we would prefer it not be in somebody's hand, put something over it, put it out of the way, but yeah, we don't want to see that in anybody's hands.
So the younger kids are starting to come in, new parents, they're starting to send their kids up to school. What would you have any advice to them to maybe calm their nerves about sending their 6 or 7-year-old to school for the first time, about the safety of our schools here at Peters Township?
Right. So we do many Alice trainings for the parents. I would definitely tell them to take Shelley Belcher up on it. She puts an email out that when we're going to have those trainings. At first, we had a lot of people at those trainings. Recently, not so many. So I would urge them to definitely go through the Alice program.
Are there any other things that parents can do to help ensure the safety of our schools besides taking the ALICE training and talking with our students?
Well, once again, talking to their children about it. The biggest thing that concerns me is if we did have an active aggressor at the school, to tell them not to respond to the school. If they respond to the school, they are going to cause me many headaches with traffic. I'm not going to be able to get my first responders in. I've got to be able to identify people here on the grounds. So that's my only concern with the parents.
In a case of a school intruder, and parents are notified, where would you suggest that the parents go after being notified?
They will be notified where to go by school administration.
Okay, thank you. As we sort of wrap up our show, I just want to look back. Obviously, you went to school when you were a kid. How has school safety changed since you were in school and you were up through the grades all the way to now, where you see students at school?
Well, when I was young and went to school, we had Pittsburgh security for our school district, right? We barely ever saw them in the school, usually out driving in their green cars, right? Mm-hmm. They corralled us if we were not in school and playing what we called hooky. Other than that, our doors were not secured. We could walk into those doors, but we did not have this threat issue.
That's crazy to think about. Now I have to buzz in. That's crazy. So that's all the time we have for today. As you can see, school safety is a growing concern, but we will continue to get better. Peters Township is committed to becoming more safe, and I'm sure all other school districts around here are doing the same thing. Thank you, Officer Stevick, for coming on the show today, and thank you for tuning in. Till next time.